Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is a 12 cast-ons making vlog and I am going to be just concentrating on one project in this vlog. So if you're new to the channel, the 12 cast-ons is a make-along that I host at the end of 1 year going into the beginning of the next year, and we cast on together as a community as many projects as we feel like we want to, from 1 up to 12. If you're interested in finding out any more detail than that, there are several playlists from the 12 cast-ons for the last few years over on the main YouTube page for Yarn and Yarns. It's a little bit of a chaotic start to this video. Life is a little bit out of the ordinary for me at the moment, and so hey, we're just going with it. It is the first week or so of July, 7th, 8th, 9th, something like that, of July as I'm recording this, and this month I'm actually, out of the 31 days in the month, I'm going to be spending at least 21 of them away from home. So I'm trying to just go with the flow and record snippets here and there. I'm recording on my phone today rather than my camera, so you just have to bear with me if a couple of these vlogs are a little bit choppy and the quality changes, but as I say, I'm just going with the flow and trying to grab some minutes when I can. So at the moment I'm up in Yorkshire staying with my in-laws. You can see the lovely countryside view that I have out of the bedroom window that I use when I stay here. And in today's vlog I'm going to be working on a pillow that I started for the 12 cast-ons, this last iteration, 2024 cast-ons, and it's a tasselled pillow. Now I have already been working on this pillow for about a week or so as I've been recording this. I'm going to share with you a little bit of footage that I took before I started knitting. I just didn't have the opportunity to record an intro before I started knitting, so I'm going to share a little bit of footage with you, and then hopefully while I'm up here for the next week or so we might go on a couple of little adventures and I'll take you to some different places where we can sit and knit together for a while as I work on this project. So just a quick recap on the project. I'm using 2 skeins of single spun yarn, hand spun, and I'm knitting them up into a pillow. So I've got a ball of pink and I've got the multicoloured yarn that you can see on the screen as well. I'm knitting one panel in the pink and another in that multi. I've started with the pink and this is what the cushion will hopefully eventually look somewhat like. So as I promised, I thought I would take you on a little adventure with me to do a little bit of knitting. And my in-laws live just around the corner from the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, which is an amazing place that you can visit. There's a huge amount of grounds. There's a couple of galleries there, but there's lots of outside space and you can wander around and enjoy the sculptures. And no matter how busy the day is, there's usually some lovely places where you can find a few minutes to yourself to tuck yourself away and sit and knit. There's a beautiful lake there and you can wander around that, and yeah, there's just these amazing sculptures scattered all around the park, and it's just a lovely place to while away an hour or two or even longer if you wanted to. And yeah, you can, as I say, you can always find a little bit of space to yourself. I love the fact that there are lots of sheep and lots of animals wandering around too. They do have some Highland cows grazing on the land. I didn't spot them this time, but there were plenty of sheep, and as you just saw, some lovely geese wandering around. So yeah, it's just a fabulous outside space. This little character did not get the memo that you're not really meant to touch the sculptures, but hey ho, he's so cute you can get away with it, right? So yeah, if you're ever in the West Yorkshire area, I can highly recommend a visit to the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. There's lots of temporary exhibitions, and then obviously some of the bigger sculptures are permanent displays, including this fabulous Henry Moore that I'm sat next to. I hope you enjoyed a little peek at the sculpture park, and we can just sit and knit for a few minutes together. I hope you enjoyed a little trip with me to the lovely Yorkshire Sculpture Park. It's been a couple of days since I managed to get those couple of hours to myself for a little bit of knitting and a little bit of outside time, which has been nice. I've been up here helping out family for the last 10 days almost. It's Friday as I'm recording this, and this is my last day here today. I'd hoped to maybe take you out to one more place to share with you, but it's just been super busy for me here. I'm working remotely because I'm running out of annual leave to take at work, and I've still got a long time left before my annual leave renews. So I've been working remotely. I've been looking after mother-in-law after her eye operation, and we've been going up to the hospital to visit father-in-law because he's in hospital at the moment. So yeah, it's been a lot, but it's fine. I'm heading home tomorrow via YarnNYarns, hopefully. A little unexpected yarn festival excursion on my way home, because that's taking place in Birmingham, which is about halfway home, so that seems like a good excuse to stop in. So I'd hoped to do a little bit more knitting, take you to one more place here in Yorkshire to do a little bit more knitting, but yeah, it just hasn't happened. So I'm just sat here in the bedroom that I use, and I thought I'd just check in and share with you my progress. This is such an odd shape. I'm very intrigued as to where this is going to go, because as I'm knitting the pattern, this is actually the second panel, and you fold it in half, and this half has got button band, so this is the back. So I'm going to assume that the front is almost like opposite shaping, but I'm just trusting the pattern, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, if I fold this over, you can see I'm almost to the point now where I've knit the front as long as the back. So I hope to get this finished this evening before I leave, and maybe even cast on the other panel. I've still got a fair amount of my singles yarn left. Once I got to this halfway point, I was thinking, oh gosh, I might not have enough yarn. But of course I cast off a bunch of stitches, and to be honest, even if I hadn't, I was panicking unduly because I've still got quite a lot of this left. So yeah, hopefully I will get this little bit finished this evening while I'm hanging around with mother-in-law, watching a bit of TV. And also my plan is to cast on the second half, and then hopefully that'll give me a little bit of knitting to do if I have any knit breaks when I'm at YarnNYarns tomorrow. I was very remiss yesterday and barely took any footage or photographs of YarnNYarns. I was just too busy kind of enjoying my time at the festival. I spent a few hours there in the company of some lovely friends, and then I had to make the rest of the journey home. So there was quite a lot of driving yesterday, as well as lots of enjoyable yarn time. Anyway, I'm back home now, and so I think I'm going to be putting this project away for about the 10 days or so that I'm home, because I've got other projects that I'd like to work on in July, and this is now fairly mindless knitting, backwards and forwards, stocking stitch for the most part, with a few sort of garter rows here and there. so I feel like I might save this one until I go away to spend the end of the month at my nan's house. But I thought I'd just quickly check in and share with you where I've got to on the second panel. So I managed to knit a fair bit, but I'm only about a fifth of the way through this panel, so still quite a lot of knitting to go on this one. And I'm really enjoying how the colours are playing in this. I thought it was white face woodland fibre, but I rechecked the label yesterday and it's actually white Shetland that's been dyed. Still a long way to go on this, as I mentioned, but I will hopefully get it finished before the end of the month. I reckon that's definitely doable when I'm staying at my nan's, but for now I'm going to put this one away, give it a little rest and work on a couple of my other July projects. So I will catch up with you again when I pick this up in a couple of weeks' time. Hey lovely friends, how are you doing? Just as I turn the camera on and a noisy bike whizzes past, how rude. I have just arrived, or yesterday arrived, at my grand's house. I'm staying here for a week looking after her, and I brought my pillow project with me, so I'm hoping to get the knitting finished on this if I can. I'm not sure exactly how much time I'm going to have to craft. I may have mentioned this before on previous videos, but my nan suffers with dementia and she's pretty calm during the day, but we had a bit of a rough night last night. So if that is the pattern that continues throughout the week, I'm probably not going to get that much sleep, and so I don't know how much energy I will have for crafting, but I'm going to try. There's going to be a lot of downtime in the days. So yes, I need to crack on and work away on this project now. There's about a week or so left in July, so I'm hoping to get this done by the end. But yeah, we'll just see what happens. We'll take it day by day. My gran has this super huge garden, which I'm not used to with my little courtyard garden. There's this gorgeous pergola just behind me with some grapevines, and before he left, my uncle let me know that he had renovated the little bench in this pergola because it wasn't looking its best, but he said he did it especially for my visit, so I had somewhere nice to sit outside. So it would be rude not to take advantage on this beautiful day. Look at that super cute bench. So yeah, gonna sit and knit for a while. Hey friends, I thought I'd do a quick check-in on this project. It's been a couple of days since I chatted to you last, and I've reached the halfway point on the second panel of this pillow. Now, it's quite long and it's kind of making me chuckle because when I cast this project on for our 12 cast-ons adventure earlier this year, I thought, oh, a pillow or a cushion, that would be a nice, quick, easy project. But there's a heck of a lot of knitting in this pillow. So I'm just hoping that my yarn will last. I think it should do. Oops, apologies for covering up the camera there. I'm holding this by hand. I thought I'd brought my little mini tripod with me to my gran's, but obviously I hadn't packed it. Still got a reasonable amount of yarn left. Hoping it will last the other half of this panel, but if it's not, I think it's something that's going to be easily customizable, but hopefully I've got plenty of yarn. But yeah, I thought I'd check in. There's still a few days left until we reach the end of July, but yeah, quite a lot of knitting ahead. But I think I've got a fairly busy day today with various appointments and visitors that my nan's got for her medical stuff today, but hopefully the next couple of days should be quiet after that, so I should be able to have a reasonable amount of time sitting around knitting, although we are in a heat wave here at the moment, and my nan lives just north of London, and they are predicting that the temperatures might get up towards 30 degrees today. So yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm going to want to hold woolly stuff in my hands if the temperature does rise to that, but yeah, we'll see, I'll do my very best. I'm back home again now, and we've just nudged into the beginning of August. I think it's the 4th of August as I'm recording this, and I just went to read the instructions for what I need to do to finish this second panel on the cushion, and I realised that I've read the pattern wrong, and I figured out that I've actually knitted this much more, here we go, this much more than I needed to, which is probably a good couple of evenings knitting time. I thought maybe I would try it and get away with it and just leave it as is. I've only got a teeny tiny amount of yarn left, so probably enough to cast on with just a little bit extra left over. So I thought, oh, maybe I just use up all the yarn and get away with it. But when I sort of held the two panels together and tried to sort of fold it up into the sort of pillow shape, I realised that keeping it this long makes the proportions slightly weird. I don't think it would make too much difference. I can make a cushion inner myself if I need to fit. I don't think that this is going to be a standard size anyway, but yeah, the proportions just looked a little bit odd. So I think I am going to rip this back to the sort of recommended pattern length and then cast off, and I shall be done with the knitting portion of this pattern. In the meantime, I'm going to block these pieces. There's quite a lot of mattress stitch involved. Apologies for the light today, it's a very bright and sunny day outside and it's just peeking in through the window above me. You might be able to tell these edges are really rolling over, so I think to make the mattress stitching experience a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to just soak these, pin them out, block them, hopefully flatten these edges a little bit to make the sewing up a little bit easier. So these panels should dry relatively quickly, given that we are being treated to some pretty nice warm weather here. It's definitely not as hot as when I was at my nan's last week, where we were up into the very high 20s and even 30 degrees on a couple of days. So I shall rip back, cast off today, soak these two pieces, pin them out, let them dry for a day or two, and then hopefully, if not this week, because I'm back to work this week, maybe next weekend I shall be sewing these up, so it won't be too long now before this is finished. We made it to the weekend. A few days have passed since I checked in, and I have been patiently waiting for my pieces of this pillow to finish drying. I've just had them pinned out. I'm hoping that by sort of pinning them out, the edges are still curling a little bit, but definitely not as much as they were before. So yeah, I'm hoping it's just going to help make the assembly of this cushion a lot easier. It's Saturday morning. Did I already say that? I don't know. As I'm recording this, and it's quite a rainy day outside. It's the first or second weekend in August, and we've got a weekend of extremes. So today I think it's going to be raining for most of the day, and then tomorrow it's meant to be really hot. So it feels like it's a good weekend to stay indoors and avoid the weather. So yeah, my plan for this afternoon, I've got a couple of video bits to try and get done today. Then this afternoon I should hopefully be able to have a cosy afternoon, and the first thing on my to-do list is to try and get this sewn up. So a little time has passed and I really want to try and get this pillow finished. I'm struggling to find buttons that I like to go with it. I'm really trying to use what I've got rather than go out and buy something specific to finish off this project. I've got loads of buttons. I'm sure most of us who are crafty have collected various bits and pieces over the years, but I've got a big tub of buttons that used to belong to my mum and probably my gran before that, and I've got various buttons I've collected over time. Just, you know, buttons seem to appear, don't they? I need 5 buttons to finish this off. I haven't got anything that is really kind of sparking joy in me, something that I really want to use. I do have a collection of 5 plastic buttons that I found, and I'll probably put a shot in of those rather than try and hold them up in my hand. But they're different colours, different shapes, different styles, so I thought that might be a quirky finish to this pillow, but they're my backup plan now, I think, because this slightly off the wall idea has popped into my head. I've got lots of my yarn left, my 2 colours that I used in my pillow, so I'm thinking maybe I'll try and make a Dorset button from my leftover yarn and see how I feel about that against my pillow. So I only really needed to make one. My idea is to kind of test this out and see how I like it. So in case you haven't heard of a Dorset button before, it's a very traditional craft that I believe originated in Dorset here in the UK. And I've made a couple in the past, and I've got my 2 examples of Dorset buttons that I've made. So this first one was made from some embroidery thread, and you start with a ring, metal or plastic. Let me just share, I've got a plastic ring in here, just something like that. And you obviously wrap your thread or your yarn around the edge, and then you can create all sorts of different patterns in the middle. This is one I made from some yarn. This has got a wooden ring in it, I believe, and I think I might have had a kit for this one. As you can hopefully tell, that one's a bit more elaborate. It's got some beads in the centre. Somewhere in my collection of books, I'm sure I've got a little leaflet about Dorset button making. I can remember how to do the covering of the ring, I think, but I can't quite remember. I think you just make spokes and then do sort of various weaving patterns to make the centre, but I might have to look up a YouTube tutorial if I can't find my little button making booklet. Now, as I said, I need 5 buttons, so I need 5 rings, and then of course trying to use what I have. I don't randomly have 5 rings hanging around. It's a craft that I'm really interested in, but it's quite time consuming and I've never had the need to explore it that much. But what I do have is 5 keyring blanks, if you like, which I picked up in a pack. So I've taken the clasp bit off and I'm left with the ring. Now this isn't going to be ideal because obviously you have that sort of split ring effect for a key ring where you actually put your hook or your key or whatever on. So I'm not sure how smooth the edge of my Dorset button is going to turn out, but given I'm trying to use what I've got and this is a bit of an experiment, I don't know if I'm definitely going to go down the Dorset button route yet. I figure I'll just try it out. Not long after I relocated to the garden, the heavens opened and I got rained on. That was quite rude, wasn't it? Thank you, weather gods. Anyway, my first Dorset button, slightly wonky, is finished. It didn't really take that long and it's a fairly simple process. As I say, mine's a little bit wonky. I didn't quite get the spoke in the centre. It's not too far off and not bad for my first attempt in a good few years. It's been a while since I've made a button. The other thing that's making it slightly wonky or unique is obviously the fact that I'm using my singles handspun, which was fairly inconsistent to start with. So that brings quite a lot of texture and interest to the button, which I find quite cute. So the big test now is with the slightly extra bulk of my yarn around that metal ring, is it going to fit through the buttonhole? And what does it look like against the fabric? So first test is this going to fit through the buttonhole? I think it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. Yeah. Camera's probably not focusing. But yeah, it does add a push, This is going to be a pillow that's probably going to be living on my chair over in the corner of the craft room. So it's not like I'm going to be taking the cover on and off of this very often. So I'm not that worried. If this was something that I was going to be frequently sort of doing and undoing the button, I probably wouldn't use this singles yarn, because over time the friction is probably potentially going to wear through some of my singles yarn maybe, and it is a bit of a pain to squeeze through that buttonhole. But I think for these purposes it's going to look alright, and I quite like how the pink button looks against the fabric of the cushion where it's going to sit. Oops, throwing things around on the table in front of me. So yeah, it's going to sit on top of this sort of rib, which I think is quite cute. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make 4 more buttons. The one thing I will say though is I quite liked the sort of mixed, matched nature of the buttons that I picked out, the plastic ones. I thought that added, here are some of them again, a slightly quirky detail to what is a fairly quirky cushion, let's face it. So I might just go random and make some of these in the pink, maybe some of them in a mix of 2 yarns, maybe one of them just in the multicoloured yarn. I think a multicoloured button should stand out against the multicoloured rib. What I might do is make my next one out of the multicoloured yarn. The slight hesitation I've got is I've literally only got 5 of these keyring rings, and this really only uses a couple of lengths of yarn, so I could definitely cut the yarn off of the ring if I really don't like it. But of course these do take a little bit of time to make, not a huge investment in time. This one was made fairly quickly, but yeah, I don't want to waste time if I can help it. So yeah, I think I might just do a few variants and see what they look like. It's time to wrap up this vlog because I am so excited to say that my pillow is finished. The pillow has actually been finished for a couple of weeks now, but I couldn't quite find a cushion pad that had the right dimensions, so it looks a little bit lumpy bumpy, but I've kind of just stuffed it with stuffing. So at some point I will probably try and make a proper lining for this pillow, but for now this will do. I think the Dorset buttons look super cute on the back of the pillow. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. It was a lot of knitting in the end, much more than I anticipated, but I think it was a really nice use for those 2 skeins of single spun yarn that I had in my stash of handspun that I wasn't quite sure what to do with. The colours are sort of slightly outside of what I usually work with, and I'd picked the braids for that reason and spun them up as singles as an experiment. But it was just a nice coincidence that they both went together. Although the singles yarn was fairly inconsistent, I think it's knit up really lovely. There's not too much in the way of kind of inconsistencies and lumpy bumpiness compared to what I thought there might be when I first pulled that yarn out of my totes where I store my handspun. I do still have a reasonable amount of both of my singles yarns left. Oh gosh, I've left a needle poked into one of these balls, obviously where I was sewing my Dorset buttons. So I think I'm going to wind off a little section of each of these and keep it in the sort of little bag that I have set aside for bits and pieces that I keep in case of repairs. Obviously with the singles, I don't know how well it's going to hold up over time. If I need to make any repairs, do any darning in the future, then I will reserve a little bit of each of these for that. And then for the others, I think there might be a cute little handspun gnome in my future, or maybe a couple of those sweet little birds of happiness or something to use up the rest of these singles yarns. The thing that I'm really looking forward to with this, I think, because it is singles yarn, although I did full the yarn when I finished it, so that means I felted it slightly so that it would become a little bit stronger. It's obviously not as sort of wear resistant, should we say, as a multi-plied yarn. So I think this is just going to become cozier and snugglier and slightly more felted as time goes on and the cushion gets used and sat on and hugged. It's a really good size for hugging. I think I'm just going to enjoy this pillow for a long time to come. I do love all of the cute little details on the pillow, the little tassels on the ends here, and you can already tell what I mean by it's going to felt sort of slightly over time. This tassel is, the sort of strings are starting to, the strands are starting to cling together a little bit. And I'm really pleased also with how the Dorset buttons turned out for the back. It was a really cute detail, and it was fun to revisit that craft, which I always enjoy when I do it, but I just don't necessarily have reason to do it that often. So yeah, and it was fun using the variegated yarns because all of the buttons turned out slightly differently. Just as a quick reminder before we go, in case anyone is interested, the pattern was originally published in this book, which was, I think, published in conjunction with Rowan, I'm pretty sure it was, which is the Cozy Alpaca Knits book. All of the patterns in here are by Jem Weston. Don't think there's too much else to say, other than I think I mentioned way back in the video about the sort of weird shaping of this first pink part of the pillow. And I thought there might be weird shaping on the other, but there wasn't. In the end, you just folded it round. It was just one big rectangle, and you folded it round to meet the pink panel on the front. So the pink panel, if I tip it over, is slightly larger on the back, which again is quite a nice fun detail for something as ordinary as a pillow. There's just lots of really nice sort of quirky things about this one that made the project enjoyable. Yeah, thank you so much for coming along on the journey with me following the evolution of this pillow. I hope you have enjoyed the vlog, and there'll be hopefully a few more 12 cast on vlogs coming soon, because I've got a couple of projects that are really close to completion. So yeah, I'm hoping to finish out the end of 2024 strongly with a few more finished objects. It's been a year. I feel like I've barely finished anything, but hopefully the handspun pillow will be the start of turning that trend around, and there'll be more finishes to come. Let me know in the comments below what you've been working on recently. Have you finished any projects? What has been capturing your attention? Have you been working with your own handspun yarn? Do you have experience of spinning and working with singles? Do you enjoy them or not? Yeah, let's just chat all of the cozy, fibery things in the comments below. I love to hear from you. I will, of course, be back again soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.